Hi, everybody. Welcome to your Wednesday Word of Grace. I am Rennie Salata, and I am the pastor of Mills River United Methodist Church. I'm so glad that you have decided to join us today for just a few moments to pause and reflect, to let God speak into the circumstances of our lives and situation. If you are new or just recently found us, I would invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel or like us on Facebook and follow us so that you can get all the latest updates and video content that we share, particularly our worship services. I do want to remind you that we are now having two worship services on Sunday morning, a 9:30 service, which is in a more contemporary style, and then a 10:55 service following that, which is in a more traditional style. You can watch those live on Sunday mornings at 9:30 or 10:55, or you can find them either on our YouTube channel or our Facebook page if you go to our video archives. So I hope that you will join us for our worship this coming Sunday as we continue our consideration of what it looks like to live faith in exile. As we come together today, it's a really wonderful week for me in my life because this past Monday is a very special day for my family. Some of you are probably aware that I have a son. His name is Benedict, and we love him very much. Some of you are also probably aware that Ben is adopted. Yes, I am an adoptive parent. In fact, the shirt I'm wearing today is one that came from the adoption agency through whom, I should say, we undertook the adoption process and through whom we were able to become Ben's parents. And this past Monday, 2 years ago, we finalized that in the eyes of the law. We made him 100% our son, whom we had already welcomed into our hearts and lives as a full member of our family. And it's that I really want to talk about today. I want to talk about what that means for me and my family, but also what Scripture has to say about what it means for us in our lives to be people who are adopted or who are of a mindset toward adoption. For me and my family, our journey took us in this place when my wife and I discovered through many different trials and processes that we were not able to have biological children. For me, this was particularly heartbreaking because I had always wanted children of my own, and I had never considered that it wouldn't be a possibility for me and my someday wife to have biological children of our own. I had no experience whatsoever with adoption. I didn't know anyone who was adopted growing up, and so I had a lot of preconceived notions about what adoption meant, what it looked like, and how it functioned. But more than that, I had a deep-seated desire that was placed there by God to be a parent. And through the love of God, I was able to enter into the process of adoption with my wife, and it has been a blessing beyond what I could possibly have imagined. Even though I don't share any genetic connection whatsoever to Ben, from very early on, he has been my son. And if anyone ever wants to question that, do something to my son that is harmful or dangerous for him, and I will come after you. And I know that feeling deep in my heart. I also have a deep, deep desire to protect him, to care for him. I also want to let him flourish. I want to let him be who he is and experience the world in the best possible way. And even though that sometimes means that I have to lay down the law, as it were, or set rules and boundaries for him, my desire for him is actually that he be as free as possible so that he can grow and thrive. All of this is rooted in a love that for me actually grew beyond the limits of what I thought love could be. I thought that as an adoptive parent, I would be kind and compassionate, that I would do what I needed to do, that I would fulfill the obligations of parenthood. But I never believed that I could truly love an adopted child as much as I thought I would love a child of my own genetic material. But you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong that my love was limited in that way. But I also know that the ability for that love to grow that way came because of the love of God that was already poured out in me, and also, and also the ways that I was open to hearing the stories and experiencing something beyond what I had preconceived being an adoptive parent was like. This is something that I think we all can experience in our lives, and it's something that especially is important for those of us who want to engage in our relationship with God to think about. The Apostle Paul talks about it in his letter to the Romans, and I want to read one verse from Romans chapter 8 for us to think about today. Paul writes, "You didn't receive a spirit of slavery to lead you back again into fear, but you received a spirit that shows you are adopted as God's children. And with this spirit, we cry, Abba, Father." Abba, Father. Now, it's funny, I've read that passage many times over the years, and it comes in a place in Paul's letter to the Romans where he's talking about our need as human beings to live lives that are beyond ourselves, to not be given in to our own desires for selfishness, doing only what's best for us, doing only what we believe our limits are, but rather engaging in something more and something deeper. And he reminds us that the way we do this best is not by duty. It's not by obligation. It's not by adherence to a particular set of rules. It's not by trying to keep up with a preset ideology. It's not by being closed off and thinking that if we just do enough of the right things, that if we just believe enough of the right things, that if we just hang around with enough of the right people, that if we just have enough of the right resources, then finally we will experience freedom. Instead, he reminds us that our relationship with God is not primarily found in rules and regulations, ideologies, or even in right beliefs and doctrines. Rather, our relationship is rooted in being adopted. It's funny that Paul compares the life we live before our life in God to a life of fear, and our life after we become part of God's family as a life of adoption. You would think that the opposite of fear might be peace or prosperity. Perhaps if you're really familiar with Scripture, you might think of 1 John, where he says that perfect love casts out fear. And so you might think that the opposite of fear is love. And sure, that's definitely in there. But that Paul says that what we really need is to understand ourselves as being adopted is something that is essential for us, especially right now. It means that in all of the ways that the world tries to tell us that we are not good enough, we do not have enough, we are supposed to be isolated because of our age or our underlying infirmities, and all the ways that the world tries to tell us that we can't do this or we shouldn't do that, God instead has adopted us and said, I choose you. You are chosen. You are beloved. And sometimes, yes, I have to put down some rules, and sometimes, yes, there are boundaries, but those boundaries are there so that you can actually live the freest possible life. I love you so much that I want you to be who you are. I want you to live a limitless and wondrous existence. And part of how we do that, part of how we begin to understand that, is by ourselves being willing to take on some boundaries, ourselves being able to take on some limits for the benefits of others. And so right now in this time, because we are adopted not only by God, but into a larger community, a family of faith, we understand that what we do, our actions, how we live now, has great impact on other people. And so in this time, yes, it means that we have to limit ourselves in ways that are hard and that can feel uncomfortable. But it also is the work of a love. Which direction am I going? Of a love. It's also the work of a love that helps us move beyond the limits that we think we have. Friends, I want you to know that no matter where you are, no matter what you've experienced in your life, no matter what your understanding and connection to God has been in the past, even if it's currently no connection at all, hear this word. God chooses you. God chooses you. Wow. God chooses you. And God chooses to limit even God's self in order to be in relationship with you through Jesus Christ, through the gift of the Spirit that allows us to say, Abba, Father of God. Friends, as we continue in these difficult and trying days, I invite you to continue to explore the depths of love divine and to see if you might not, by your openness to God's Spirit and to the stories of others, see that you can move beyond the limits that you think you have. In all things, I continue to pray for you, I continue to love you, and I continue to long for the day when we can gather again in person. Until that day, we continue to lift one another up in prayer, and I will, as has been our tradition now, post the photo of our name tag board. I'll remind you that if you see the board that week and it doesn't contain your name and your name falls in that part of the alphabet, please let us know so we can go ahead and add your name to the list of those names that we're praying for. Whether you've ever set foot in our building or not, we want to be able to pray for you. And if you'd like to share any more specific prayer requests, I certainly invite you to do that, to share them in the comments here or to send me a message directly. You can contact me through our website at millsriverumc.org. You'll also find some other wonderful things going on there. Finally, as we close up our time tonight, I do want to remind you of our Party in the Park event, drive-through event coming up on Sunday, August the 9th. If you have already volunteered to help with the packing and the distribution of the backpacks, thank you so much. Thank you also to all of you who contributed to make this possible. It has been just an overwhelming support and generosity. Now you can continue to help by praying for our students, praying for our teachers and our school staff as they begin to make their way back to school in various forms and ways. Please continue to do all you can to support them, not only by your prayers, but by speaking positively about how we can continue to impact the lives of children and educate them, even if it's in new and different ways. As always, go with God and be touched by grace. Peace and blessings, friends. Until next time, bye-bye.